have you ever felt completely, utterly stalled?
Mhm.
And I don't mean lazy, not, a Sunday afternoon on the couch.
Right.
I'm talking about that very specific, vibrating kind of frustration where you feel
Yeah.
like your engine is revving, your hands are on the wheel, you're ready to drive, but the garage door is just down.
And you're just sitting there
Mm-hmm.
idling.
Exactly. Just waiting for the GPS to load.
It's that feeling of saying, I am ready to execute. I just need to verify exactly what it is first.
Yes. You want the roadmap. You're looking up at the ceiling saying, just send me the PDF, give me the 5-year plan with like the projected outcomes and the risk assessment, and I will sign on the dotted line immediately.
We want the itinerary before we buy the ticket.
Exactly. It's a negotiation. But today, we are doing a deep dive into a source that suggests this whole order of operations is backward.
Completely backwards.
We're looking at a book called Hineni, The Sacred Posture That Unlocks God's Direction by Chris Arvelasas. And I have to say, going through this material, it made me squirm a little.
Oh, it's uncomfortable. It's supposed to be. It dismantles our safety mechanisms.
It really does.
And before we get into the concept, I think it's crucial to establish who is doing the dismantling here. Because Chris Arvelasas isn't writing this from, a theoretical bubble.
Right. This isn't some CEO writing about risk management from a high-rise office.
Far from it. Arvelasas has been a missionary pastor in the Philippines for over 25 years. He's been involved in church planting, missions training. I mean, he has lived in the trenches of uncertainty.
Okay, see, that context changes the weight of the argument for me.
It has to. When he talks about direction, it's not abstract philosophy. It's field-tested.
Because if someone with a guaranteed pension tells me to step out in faith, I might roll my eyes.
Of course.
But if someone who has lived it says it, I have to listen. And his central argument is basically this. We think clarity leads to obedience.
Once I see the path, then I'll have the courage to walk it.
Exactly. And Velasquez just flips the table on that.
He says that obedience, or maybe a better word he uses, is availability. That has to happen before the clarity comes.
The movement causes the light to turn on, not the other way around.
Yes, and to make that case, he anchors the entire book on one single Hebrew word.
Hineni.
Hineni.
It sounds kind of ancient and mystical. Let's ground it a bit. What is the actual mission of this word in the text?
Well, the literal translation from Hebrew, Hineni, it just means, here I am.
Which, to my ear, that sounds a little bureaucratic, like a roll call.
Present.
Right. The teacher calls your name, you raise your hand, present.
And that is exactly the misconception the author tackles right in the first chapter. He makes this really sharp distinction between presence and availability.
Okay.
You see, you can be present. You can be sitting in the pew. You could be physically in the room.
Nodding along to the sermon.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it does not mean you are available.
That's a huge distinction. Presence is just attendance. It's passive.
It is. You can be present, but still be completely guarded. Your arms are crossed. You're waiting to see if the request is reasonable before you even think about committing. Hineni is different. Velasquez calls it a sacred posture of availability. It's an unconditional yes that is spoken before the instructions are given.
Ooh. See, that's the terrifying part.
It is.
Yes, before the instructions. It reminds me of that old childhood thing where you ask a friend, will you do me a favor?
And the smart friend always says, what is it, first?
Always, because they know if they just say yes, they might end up helping you move a couch of 3 flights of stairs.
Precisely. Because saying yes without a parameter is dangerous. It exposes you. Velasquez uses this specific term. He calls Hineni being unguarded.
Unguarded.
When you say this word, you are offering your life without guarantees, without explanations, and without conditions. You're saying, I am here fully at your disposal before you even know what you're being disposed to do.
It's essentially signing a blank check,
Right.
which in any other area of life, business, law, that's considered reckless.
It is. It's foolish. But the whole argument hinges on who you're handing the check to.
Right.
If you hand a blank check to a stranger, you're a fool. If you hand it to someone who loves you infinitely and knows the future, it's an act of ultimate trust.
But most of us treat God like a stranger in that sense. We have conditions. I'll serve, but not in the nursery.
I'll give, but I need to see the financial report first.
Or the big one, I'll go, but only if it's safe.
Safety is the ultimate idol there, isn't it? But the book argues this isn't just a nice sentiment. This is actually the structural pattern of how God operates. He gets into what he calls the pattern of the call.
This was the part of the book that really clicked for me. Because when you look at the famous stories, the heroes of the faith, you realize the timeline is always the same.
It is striking. His observation is that God consistently calls a person's name before he reveals their assignment.
He establishes the relationship and the surrender first.
Before he drops the bombshell of the task, he gets the Hineni first.
Let's walk through the case studies because they really show the risk involved. The book starts with Abraham, right?
Genesis 22. And this is probably the most intense example. God calls out Abraham, and Abraham answers, Hineni.
Here I am.
At that exact moment, the contract is signed. He is attentive. He is unguarded.
And he has zero idea, absolutely no clue that the very next sentence is going to be, take your son, your only son, whom you love, and offer him as a burnt offering.
Think about that. If God had led with the task, Abraham, I have a really difficult assignment involving Isaac and a mountain. Are you in?
He would have run or argued, bargained, anything.
Of course. But by getting the here I am first, the obedience was established on the basis of who God is, not on whether the task made any sense.
Because that task did not make sense. It was horrific.
It was. But look at the sequence. He declared his availability, and then he received the command. His yes was already on the table.
Then you've got Moses, the burning bush. This one feels a bit more relatable because Moses is kind of a mess at this point.
He is. Exodus chapter 3. God calls Moses. Moses says, Hineni. Now, you have to put yourself in his shoes. He's a fugitive hiding in the desert for 40 years. He's a shepherd with a murder charge back in Egypt.
Right. He's minding his own business, and he answers, here I am, before he knows about the mission.
Exactly. Before he knows, he has to go back to the place where he's wanted, confront Pharaoh, and lead a few million complaining people through a desert.
If God had sent the job description first, wanted, scapegoat for empire, must enjoy hiking and plagues, Moses runs the other way.
He tries to run anyway. He spends the next chapter arguing, bringing up his speech impediment, his lack of credibility.
Which is so relatable.
It is. But the entry point was that posture of availability. And Velasquez shows this pattern holds for Isaiah too. Isaiah chapter 6.
The vision in the throne room.
Yes. Isaiah sees the Lord, and he is completely undone. He's not thinking, put me in, coach. He's thinking, woe is me, I am ruined, I am a man of unclean lips.
He realizes his resume is not up to snuff.
Far from it. But then the question comes from God. Whom shall I send? And despite his fear, Isaiah responds, Hineni, send me.
Here I am, send me. And again, he doesn't ask, send me where?
Or what's the per diem? Or is there a health plan? No. He has been encountered by the reality of God, and his response is total availability.
Wow.
And this brings us to a really critical insight from Velasquez. God isn't looking for ability. He's looking for availability.
We think God needs our competence. We want to present a finished product.
Yeah.
Here I am. Look at my LinkedIn profile.
But the book argues God works through people who are often unqualified, but are simply willing to say yes before they know the plan. It just shifts the burden.
How so?
If you need to be competent enough to handle the task, the pressure's all on you.
Right.
But if you just need to be available, the pressure's on the caller to equip you.
That takes the weight off.
Right.
But, okay, let's play devil's advocate. If this is the pattern, why is it so hard for us? The book calls it the modern trap.
The diagnosis he offers is conditional obedience.
Back to the GPS analogy.
It's faith as a transaction. Lord, show me the plan, prove it strategically sound, assure me I won't get hurt, and then I'll obey. And Velasquez goes a layer deeper here. He argues that what we often call discernment, or waiting on God, is actually just a disguise for a desire for control.
Ooh. Okay, let's pause there. That stings.
It does.
Because waiting on God sounds so spiritual. I'm just praying about it. I'm seeking wise counsel.
It's the perfect cover. I haven't moved yet because I'm waiting for peace. But Velasquez challenges you to ask, are you waiting for direction, or are you waiting for safety?
Wow.
Are you waiting for the command, or for the guarantee that the command won't hurt?
That's a heavy question. We want to mitigate risk. We want to see the destination before we take the first step.
And we think we should. We call it prudence. And prudence is a virtue, but there's a line where it becomes paralysis.
So because we don't see the destination, we stand still. And we call that discernment.
But the author argues true discernment usually happens in motion.
Like steering a car.
Exactly. You cannot steer a parked car. And the consequence of this is that people feel stalled. They say, I've been praying for 5 years for direction, and I hear nothing.
And the book's argument is that God hasn't gone silent.
He's just waiting for the surrender. He withholds the detailed map because the listener is withholding the yes.
So the light is given for the next step, not the whole journey.
That's the spiritual principle. We want a floodlight that illuminates the next 10 years. God usually hands us a flashlight that just illuminates the next 3 feet.
And to see the next 3 feet after that, you have to walk the first 3.
Precisely. And this ties back to that idea of relationship. If I have a floodlight and a map, I can rely on my own planning.
Right. I don't need the guide anymore. I've got it from here.
Exactly. But if I only have a flashlight, I have to stay close to the guide. Dependency isn't a bug in the system. It's the feature.
Now, for anyone listening who thinks this sounds a bit abstract, the book grounds this in the ultimate example. It's not just about prophets in the desert.
No, this is the Christ-centered culmination of the whole argument. Velasquez argues that Jesus isn't just a teacher of Hineni. He is the embodiment of it.
Where do we see that most clearly?
Gethsemane, the garden. This is the ultimate Hineni moment. Jesus is facing the cross. He knows the cost, and it's horrific. The human part of him recoils.
Let this cup pass from me.
It's the most human moment in the Gospels. But what's the final conclusion? Not my will, but yours be done. That is Hineni in his purest form.
The ultimate blank check.
It is. And the book points out that Jesus yielded not because he was rescued from the pain, he wasn't, but because he trusted the Father. He trusted the character of the one calling the shots.
So for the believer, this isn't just about trying to be like an Old Testament hero.
It's about being like Christ. It's the core of discipleship, moving from my will be done to thy will be done.
Which is easy to say on Sunday morning, but hard to say on Monday when your boss is screaming at you.
Exactly. And that shift is everything.
So let's get practical, because a lot of us hear this and think, okay, I want to be that person, but I also have a mortgage and anxiety and a need for a 5-year plan. How do we actually practice this?
The book is very helpful here. It offers some actual disciplines. One that stood out to me was the daily surrender prayer.
What does that look like?
It's about starting the day with consent rather than demands. Most of us start our prayers with a to-do list for God. Fix this, change that, heal my aunt, help me find parking.
Here are your deliverables for the day, Lord.
Right. But the daily surrender prayer flips it. You start by saying, God, I am available. Before I ask for anything, I consent to your will for today. Interrupt me if you need to.
I love that idea. Permission to be interrupted, because usually interruptions are the enemy of my plan. They make me angry. But if my plan is to be available, then the interruption is the plan. That neighbor who needs to talk when you're running late isn't an obstacle. They are the assignment.
That's a massive paradigm shift. It makes the day feel like a treasure hunt rather than a checklist. It does. And that leads to the second tip, obedience in the small. Velasquez says we're all waiting for the big call, to move to Africa or start a nonprofit.
Right.
But we ignore the small promptings.
Call that friend, apologize to your spouse, put your phone down.
Exactly. We want to slay the dragon, but we won't do the dishes.
Yeah.
But the book argues that saying yes to these small things creates muscle memory. If you can't say Hineni to a small inconvenience, you're not going to say it to a life-altering calling.
That makes so much sense. It's like athletic training. You don't run a marathon on day 1.
And finally, he talks about silence. Creating space where that need for control can loosen. We are so inundated with noise, podcasts, news, social media.
We're drowning out the uncertainty with noise.
Precisely. But Hineni requires listening. You can't say, here I am, to a voice you can't hear. The goal is to just sit and say, I'm here, I'm listening.
It really is a shift from asking, what is the plan, to asking, am I available?
That's the fundamental shift. It's moving from a transaction to a relationship. Here I am, lead me.
It's compelling. It really challenges that part of us that wants to be the CEO of our own spiritual lives.
That's a great way to put it. We aren't the architects. We're the builders. And the builder doesn't need to see the whole blueprint to lay the next brick.
So to wrap this up, the big takeaway from Hineni is that we've been waiting for light, but God is waiting for movement.
Yes. Direction flows to those who are in motion and surrendered. Availability is the key. If you feel stuck, the solution might not be more information. It might just be surrender.
It's that quote, right?
Yeah.
God can't steer a parked car.
Exactly. And Hineni is the act of turning the engine on and taking your foot off the brake.
Even if you don't know which way the steering wheel is going to turn yet. I want to leave our listeners with the specific challenge from the end of the book, because it's not a comfortable question.
It's a haunting question, in a good way. Velasquez asks, if God called your name right now, in this moment, before explaining the cost, the risk, or the destination, would your life be able to answer Hineni?
Not would you want to, But are you positioned to? Is your life open enough to say, here I am, send me? Or are your hands too full of your own plans?
It's the difference between a life held tightly in your own grip and a life held open. And that is a question worth wrestling with this week.
Definitely. A huge thank you to the work of Chris Velazquez for giving us that challenge. And thank you for listening to The Deep Dive.
See you next time.
Take care.